Happy Wednesday. You thought that the Ryan D. Leaf was going to greet you here on the RDL show, but you were wrong. Why? Because he's over in El Segundo hosting the Rich Eisen show. Welcome, everybody, to the RDL show, week number 4 in full swing. My name is Jonathan Rifkind. I am filling in for the big man RDL here today. We'll be filling in on Friday as well, hosting the show. I got Sky Guasco, fantasy football award winner for his podcast, and I got resident frat boy Charlie Moss on as well. We'll bring them on here in a couple of minutes to join. You know, we'll bring them on now. What's up, guys? What's up? How we doing?
Oh my god!
I was losing it on that intro, man. I appreciate the acknowledgement, Jonathan. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
We don't talk about it enough, guys. Sky Guasco has won a fantasy football podcast award. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty darn impressive.
I was more excited about Charlie's intro personally.
And there's plenty of frat guys out there. Not as impressive.
What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everyone.
How are we doing, everybody?
We're doing great. All right, so I got some stuff to say. Want to give a shout out, of course, to the Alves Project. Ready to go, baby. Let's get it. Eric Davidson said he missed Monday's episode to watch his Zags win. I didn't miss Monday's episode, and I still watched your Zags win, Eric. So not exactly sure if that's a valid enough excuse, but we'll give it to you on this one. Shout out to Rob Berger, our faithful RDL fanner over here, who unfortunately could not join in for the live part. But Rob, we're going to pay attention and see if you actually do hold to your promise of watching the show later. But I want to start with this. Perspective and perception, right? Typically, Ryan opens the show with some real-life conversation, and I'm only 24 years old. Now, in my eyes, I've lived a long life. I've lived through a lot of different stuff throughout my 24 long years on this earth. But I'm learning a lot from Ryan, and I'm learning a lot from the perspective that he brings to this show. And I live in San Diego, one of the places that Ryan partook in the culture of for a handful of years. It's not unknown that it wasn't the sweetest of years in the Ryan Leaf campaign. What is up, hold on, David Morey from England. Thank you for taking the time to join the show here. I think you guys are 8 hours ahead or 6 hours ahead. And good evening, if you will, David Morey. But what I want to go back to is, so I'm in San Diego, right? I'm a sports broadcaster. Last night I called a basketball game at an inner city school down in Spring Valley, which is an eastern suburb of downtown San Diego. And the principal at Mount Miguel High School, where I was calling the game, came up to me and said, "It's 8." I was right the first time. 8 hours ahead in England. Thank you, David. And he asked me, "Okay, so you're a great play-by-play guy. What do you do for your day job?" I was like, "Well, this is part of my day job. The other thing I do is I'm a co-host, executive producer for Ryan Leaf." And his eyes kind of got wide. He's like, "Ryan Leaf? I haven't heard that name in years." Of course, this is the Chargers played probably, 10 minutes away from that high school that I was at last night, Mount Miguel, at Qualcomm Stadium, and which unfortunately is now gone. There is no stadium left where Qualcomm used to be. It is now just a massive rubble. But I said, yes, I work with Ryan Leaf or for Ryan Leaf, whatever you want to go, however you want to go. And I said, it's been a lot of fun. He said, "Ryan Leaf, like, isn't he still in prison?" And I kind of looked at him like, it's been a couple of years since that time. He's been doing well. He's been doing a lot of different stuff. And so this was before the game. Fast forward to the end of the game. Principal comes back and goes, during the game, his basketball team is currently playing, but he spent his time looking up Ryan Leaf and what Ryan Leaf is doing in present day because I piqued his interest. And he said, "Wow, I got to say, I'm really impressed with Ryan's story and what Ryan is doing now. And the message that he is trying to portray each and every day that he is living in this world," right? Because a lot of people who don't follow Ryan in present day, and Ryan has no idea I'm talking about this, by the way. A lot of people who don't follow Ryan present day, who have the association that Ryan Leaf is this big bust in the NFL, flamed out, drugs, prison, and that was it. They stopped following him from there. When they go and they reconcile present day Ryan Leaf, it's almost, I don't know. People are shocked. People are shocked because they remember him at some point doing a, in a certain situation in his life, And now all of a sudden it's completely different, and they don't recognize the change. They don't recognize the work that he's put in because they haven't been following him. And it was really inspirational when I was talking to this principal about Ryan and about the work that we do, because at the end of the day, when you put something out, right? And Ryan's mission, he talked about it on Monday. His mission was from that moment in his jail cell when he wanted to be of service, right? There were other people that within the jail community around him that didn't know how to read. And he went to the library and he taught them how to read. He would find ways to be of service to other people. And it wasn't just him saying it, it was by action. So when people in the San Diego area come to me and are like, oh, Ryan Leaf, we haven't heard that name in years. What's he up to? And I tell them, and then they go and they look him up. Like I said, it's heartwarming. It's surprising because a lot of these people don't put in the work to change. Most people stay the same throughout their life, for good or for bad. But Ryan preaches a different message. Ryan preaches a bit of inspiration, but he's the proof of concept for the ability to go out and change, for the ability to go out and elevate the people around you. And now, present day, when people go and they experience that, it's really heartwarming. It warms my heart to see the response that Ryan has gotten here in San Diego in present day for some of the people that sort of just remember the Charger days of Ryan Leaf. Speaking of Ryan D. Leaf, he is on the show today, folks, but he is over at the Rich Eisen. Look at that microphone. That is a $20,000 microphone that Ryan D. Leaf is spitting all over here on our show today.
What's up, boys? How we doing?
Doing great, boss. How are you?
Did you guys check out the show this morning?
Absolutely.
Working on it. Yeah, we a little pregame, but doing well. How's it going so far?
Good. Just got finished with the Rich Eisen show today on Peacock TV. Talked a lot of NFL, talked some NBA. I had Jim Irsay on, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, and we talked about the infamous Hunter S. Thompson letter that was written to him about drafting me first. And I got to ask him questions about, like, how much did he know? And he said that the scouting room was split 50-50. And one of the most trusted NFL guys he's known for years came to him the night before the draft and says, you got to draft Ryan Leaf. And so glad he didn't, I guess.
That's awesome.
All right, give us some show highlights today. So you talked to Jim Irsay. What were some of the NFL topics you guys covered? Because we're going to talk about some of the free agency updates here in a couple of minutes. Let's get into that here with you.
Yeah, we got into the Deshaun Watson stuff with Jeff Darlington from ESPN, and really, what's all going on? More cases have been filed now. He doesn't have unless the team is willing to take on the PR nightmare of picking win over win. There's no trade value anymore. I don't know if this is going to be resolved anytime soon, and there's probably criminal investigation coming forward, as well as an NFL investigation that would land him on the exempt list. The signing of Tyrod Taylor right now is looking like a huge forward-thinking signing, because that's most likely going to be the Houston Texans starting quarterback, and Deshaun Watson won't be playing football anytime soon.
There's so much here with this story, Ryan, in terms of just how do we receive this information on our end, right? Media, fans, other teams. Is this one of the situations where we ignore the opinionists and wait for the facts to come out? Like, how are you approaching the coverage of this situation with Deshaun Watson?
I would rather be wrong and not believing the victims than right on the other end. There's just too much evidentiary proof. Now, I get, in a world of controversy and collusion and conspiracy, that this could be one of those Ray Donovan, terrible setup. I don't believe that to be true. We don't truly ever know anybody. I remember in my darkest moments, no one knew what was going on, how I behaved. I mean, there's trips to Vegas when I was using that were, how I objectified women, and you never know. And if this all true. You know, there's a predatory thing to it, and these victims need to be heard and listened to. And most likely that means Deshaun Watson will never play football again. And guess what? There are consequences, and you can still become a better person. We have to wait and find out. And I'm willing to practice patience, but every new case that comes up, you know, it becomes more and more about these women and their well-being in all this.
Let's move the conversation forward here. Tampa Bay, they've re-signed basically everybody but Antonio Brown at this point. They're locked and loaded. Are you surprised with anything that they're doing here in the offseason? And is there anybody in the league that's going to be able to really contend with them over the next year, depending on how the rest of free agency goes and draft? Because right now, to me, it looks like Tampa Bay is going to be pretty much the same as they were this year. And that was a pretty darn good team, obviously, winning the Super Bowl.
No, they are the favorite going into this next year. They re-signed the team that was the NFL champion. If Antonio Brown and Leonard Fournette don't re-sign, which I don't think they probably will, they, to me, don't seem like the incredibly loyal people who look at what Tampa Bay did for them as they see this as a stepping stone, try to go make some money elsewhere. They'll address those absences in the draft, I believe, and if not, in some more free agency. But the Ndamukong Suh signing was huge. The Shaq Barrett one for me was giant. Chris Godwin, all of those. I think this team right now, if you're a betting man, you put it on them to do it again and come here to LA and win a championship next year. So,
you guys got anything for Ryan?
We had Wayne Tinkle on today too.
Oh, tell me about how he turned Hinkle Fieldhouse into Tinkle Fieldhouse, please.
Yeah, that was fun. I made a mistake early on. I said they were playing Syracuse in the next round of the Sweet 16, but they're playing Loyola Chicago. And the way I backtracked on the show was I said, I already know you're beating Loyola Chicago. I'm talking about when you play them in the Elite Eight is when that plays out. So
you like Ryan, don't blaspheme against my team, please.
You might have jinxed them. I don't know.
I know. I hope I didn't, but he's excited. He's excited. It's a great story. And they've been I feel like they're the darlings, coming for me. 4 Pac-12 teams in, 25% of the Sweet 16, 1 Elite 8 team for sure since the USC and Oregon play each other. Alabama seems like a tough beat for UCLA. I get that. But we'll find out. I'm excited for this weekend's, 3rd and 4th rounds. I'm excited to dive back into it with you boys. I'll be on for a little bit on Friday. But before I get out of here, let's talk about Sunfair, because on the show today, we showed pictures of me last time I was hosting, the last time I was on the show. And wow, I mean, what a difference. There was a guy who called in and said I looked better now than I did when I was 22, the day I was drafted. And that is a huge compliment. That's all due to Sunfair. Go to sunfair.com for personalized, delivered, healthy meals. It's all about the food. It's all about the food. Sign in, sign up, check the boxes for sales representative Carl Farrow and where you heard about it, the Ryan D. Leaf Show. Get 10% off your first delivery, and let's get this started together. Sunfair.com. Big sponsor, first on the board for the Ryan D. Leaf Show. Hey, boys, have a great show.
Before you go, Ryan, before you go, can we get a quick tour of this, a quick live look at the Rich Eisen studio for our fans?
Yeah, so I showed up today. And I was wearing a new white, just beautiful white hoodie. And I got told from producers, that pops on. You got to wear it. So I didn't have another shirt.
That's
like
wild.
I was looking through Rich Eisen's closet, and his sleeves are they come up to my elbow. So I ended up going with a golf shirt that I had brought. So here's the desk. Here's the desk where I sit at and do my deal. The Rich Eisen background. There's the TJ Jefferson's corner back there where he in the putting green. This is Del Tufo does everything. Here's my boy Chris Brockman, another producer, TJ, and Don Bowie, the guy that takes me through it all. So this is the whole studio. It's fun. I get to do this. I'm so grateful for it. And, I'll be back at it on Friday. So we'll do this again on Friday for a quick pop in during the Ryan D. Leaf Show. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks you guys for holding down the fort. Keep it up.
You got it, Ryan. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thanks,
We'll talk
boss.
to
We
you Friday.
got you.
Got you, big dog.
Thanks, boys.
Boss man, how cool is that studio, man? Last year I've been there a few times when he's hosted last year, and it is just such a cool feeling. It is so cool to be in the Rich Eisen studio. They have these couches in the back that he didn't show you with all these trophies and signed paraphernalia from previous guests. It's really cool. It's really, really cool.
Quick, I'll put you guys on the spot, and I haven't thought about this either, but I'll put you on the spot. You host, you have your own, the Charlie Moss studio, the Jonathan Rifkind studio. What are 3 mandatory pieces of memorabilia that you have to have? Any team, any player, any piece of stadium equipment, piece of a putting green, whatever it is. What are 3 mandatory pieces that are going to have to be front and center in your studio?
I think that's a great question, Sky. Just got to say that off the bat. But number 1, I'm going with the Tom Brady Michigan jersey just because, old Michigan faithful right here.
I like it.
I'm gonna go with a putting green. I think it's just fun to have around a studio. Practice your shots when the show's not going on. Have some good conversations with people, and then lastly, I think you just gotta have like a couch and a TV, especially like during the day when there's March Madness going on. I know that's not all the time, but when it is on, you need an essential place to watch and hang with the boys, and that's what my ideal office would look like for the CD Moss show. David Moore, Tom Brady's deflated balls. Tom Brady has 7.
Well, which deflated balls are you talking about here, David? That's what I want to know, because there's a pair that I do want in my studio, and there's a pair I don't want in my studio.
Hey, David Moore, by the way, you're referring to Tom Brady as the GOAT. All right, so let's get that clear.
Jonathan, how about you?
I mean, I have a studio. It was currently MIA during the pandemic, but we're getting back here in about a week. I won't be doing the show from there, but for play-by-play purposes only. But I think I'm a big polo shirt guy. I love getting polos from all my previous employers. So I have one from all the different Oregon jobs I worked at, Broadcasting University of Oregon. I got a South Eugene one when I was calling football for South Eugene High School. Northwest Christian University, award winner over here. Got a couple polos from them. I want to have a line of polos on my wall. It's like jerseys, but I, as a broadcaster, get to wear the polo. I don't get to wear a jersey, so it's more emblematic of what I do.
I like that.
So I want a wall of all of my polos from the different teams that I've worked for broadcasting games. And I actually have a championship ring, which is the last thing I want, that Ryan D. Leaf is currently holding hostage. I called summer baseball for Mike Scioscia's, for an Angels affiliate a couple years ago. They won the league. It was my 3rd season doing it. I started the broadcasting department, so the coach promised me. I made the coach at the beginning of the season, Coach Dave Solis, class act at a Rio Mesa High School in SoCal here. I said, you're going to give me a championship ring when you guys win this season. And he said, absolutely. So I got a Caneo Oaks. It was awesome. 4 diamond encrusted, sterling silver band. It's awesome ring. And when I was working in the office with Ryan last year, he had all of his trophies and like all of his whatever. And he would consistently shit on me about having nothing on my desk. So I'm like, all right. So guess what? You don't have that I have, a championship ring. So I bring my broadcasting award. I bring my championship ring. I move and I forget to take the ring out of the office. And Ryan just hits me up and is like, yeah, this is mine now. So now Ryan has a championship ring. It is my championship ring, and I want it back for my studio.
I like it. I'm gonna go with some hometown affair. I'm gonna take like 2 or 3 bleacher seats from the old Candlestick Park in San Francisco, where I grew up and went to ball games forever. It's been since gone as well. Colin Kaepernick jersey, and I would like a set of the Giants World Series rings, 2010, 12, and 14, living through that period as a Bay Area fan, with the Warriors doing what they're doing. The Niners went to a Super Bowl. Sharks were on top of their game as well. That was a great time to be Bay Area fan. So having those 3 replica rings, if not the actual, replica trophies or something from the Giants to go along with the Candlestick memorabilia, I think would be super sweet.
What do you have speaking of in that corner over your left shoulder? What is that?
So left
shoulder.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah, that's new.
That's the U, right? It's a U bobblehead.
So this down here. So I've got Justin Herbert jersey. D'Anthony Thomas, Oregon Ducks jersey from the Fiesta Bowl when he smoked Kansas State for 200 plus yards, opening kickoff for a touchdown. TCK Pod microphone that my daughter made for me, a little emblem. That's from my podcast.
Award-winning TCK Pod microphone.
Thank you. And below me is, yes, that is the U. That is actually a Frank Gore signed mini helmet. That's cool. I have more in the stock that I will be decking out. And if you're a fan of the show and you tune in weekly, which I know all of you are, you will notice that these jerseys behind me swap out weekly. So we like to mix it up here on the Ryan D. Leaf Show.
I will say, for the time being, my jersey will not be swapping out. I need it there for good luck.
And I will say that the press passes over there. That's about to, by Friday, this entire side is going to be filled up. So we'll have a contest. We'll do a listener like, I don't know, poll or something. Who has the best setup? Ryan obviously has a Heisman runner-up trophy, a quarterback of the year trophy. Ryan is excluded from this contest. So Charlie, you better step up your game, buddy, because right now it looks like you're last.
I have limited space. All right. So we need to consider that.
I just hear a loser mentality out of that bottom right corner.
All right.
Let's get to some content. Let's get to some content here. All right, the Alves Project. Are the Patriots building a Super Bowl or playoff team? Not with the quarterback situation. They're attempting to build around the other pieces, so eventually they get a quarterback that can elevate the offense. Defensively, I think they're fine, right? Defensively, they're fine. It's the offense that I'm worried about. Now, I did read this morning that N'Keal Harry is being sought after by a few teams. They call him a first-round bust. I mean, what is it? 42 receptions in 2 seasons, 400 and some yards. I guess as a first-round draft pick, he's a bust. But they need to get quality pieces in return, and I don't know if they're going to get that. Sky, this is probably a situation in the Patriots that you've been following a little bit more closely than I have. What is your interpretation of the last few days under Bill Belichick?
Well, first of all, big move here. My boy James White returns to New England, 1 year, $2.5 million, fully guaranteed from my man. So he's getting paid, which is great. I'm a big James White fan. That is a huge cornerstone piece of that offense that's been there for years that they needed to bring back. Rex Burkhead's still at large, but he could potentially come back. Sony Michel, still young, but unfortunately just starting to have kind of that Todd Gurley knee syndrome coming out of college as well, unfortunately. But they got Damian Harris as well, J.J. Taylor, some of these young running backs I think they can work around. The big question mark is Cam Newton. However, the further we get into this offseason and then bringing in Jonnu Smith, who was the first big free agent signing basically through the league, and Bill went out and handpicked him. And we've heard multiple reports about how much he appreciates Jonnu Smith and his gameplay and comments from previous seasons and whatever. They turn around and go and get Hunter Henry as well, 2 tight ends. Now, a big part of that is going to be, again, it's the radius, right? If Cam Newton can productively work within a 10 to 15 yard, bubble in front of him and throw the occasional, chuck, I think they're going to have a chance. Cam looked horrendous last year. I'm not necessarily defending last year, but he was coming off of a surgery, didn't join the team until June. He did not have the offseason, obviously, and obviously the COVID situations. He ends up getting COVID himself. He's out. He's kind of lax for a few weeks after that. The team was rebounding from 2 decades of Tom Brady. So many things in New England. They had 4 or 5 Pro Bowlers basically on the defense opt out due to COVID. Julian Edelman goes down. I mean, you can't write a worse script for an NFL team. And Cam didn't do himself any favors. However, 12 rushing touchdowns is nothing to sneeze at. If he comes back and gets half of that and he can get up to 4,000 something yards and just limit turnovers, I think this team will be able to be productive. Still same head coach, same OC. I think the Patriots are going to be fine. I'm less worried about the Patriots as a Patriots fan rebounding from 7-9. I'm more concerned about, can we slow down and can we get past the Bills, who were in the AFC Championship last year and had a chance for about a half against the Chiefs, and the Dolphins, who are surging quickly. And I don't think the Jets are ready this year, but in the next 2 or 3, with Robert Saleh coming over, I do believe that they will also be a contender in that division. So I think that the Patriots are certainly much closer to a playoff contender than a Super Bowl contender anymore, because you got to go through Mahomes, you got to go through Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson's still around, obviously. So I am okay with them fighting for a wild card spot. I don't think they'll make a deeper run, though.
I want to touch on this comment here by David. Starting to be quite a while since Cam looked like Cam. I have a question because I think this brings up an interesting point. People talk about Carson Wentz, right? Carson Wentz hasn't looked like Carson. Cam Newton hasn't looked like Cam. This quarterback, that quarterback. I call it the Jeremy Lin complex. Okay, remember Jeremy Lin, the guy who
certainly do
lit up
Linsanity.
the NBA for 4 or 5 weeks, and then dropped off. Played in China for a while. Now he's on the Warriors G League team. Was Jeremy Lin? Was that the real Jeremy Lin, the guy who's scoring 40 points against the number 1 and 2 teams in the NBA and consistently night in night out for the New York Knicks, right? Or was that a version of Jeremy Lin where he was at the peak of his performance? It wasn't sustainable, and the real Jeremy Lin is actually the Jeremy Lin that we see today.
I'm going to say he was at peak performance, playing out of his mind for that 4 or 5 week stint, and then kind of went back to reality. And
so when we look at these players who have won the MVP, right? Cam Newton, Carson Wentz, who have led their teams to postseason runs, to Super Bowls even. It almost, at this point, feels like a fluke. It almost feels like Cam Newton and Carson Wentz overperformed during those seasons. And now with a proper sample size over the last 3, 4, 5 years, we're in 2021. It's been 5 years since Cam Newton has looked like, quote, Cam Newton, right? Yeah. At this point, I don't think that Cam Newton that we saw, the MVP, the Super Bowl winner, is who Cam Newton is. I think Cam Newton is a middle-of-the-line quarterback who is systematically impaired because he really can only do so much. He doesn't have a phenomenal arm. He's moving slower and slower every season because of injuries. And when he's not surrounded by quality wide receivers who elevate his performance, I think that that's just who Cam Newton is. I think that we're seeing who Cam Newton is, and it's unfortunate. But I just don't think that he is who we thought he was back in 2016.
But I don't think it's fair to compare Cam Newton to Jeremy Lin.
It's not in performance. It's in perception.
I think we have to give Cam at least a little more respect than that. He's an MVP. He brought the team to the Super Bowl. Sure, you may say it was a fluke. I don't think so. He was playing good football back then. And then,
but it's not. But that's not who Cam Newton is what I'm saying.
Well, 2011 as his rookie year, he had arguably the most dominant. I mean, until Justin Herbert and.
But so did RG3
Baker
when
Mayfield
he was a rookie, right? And what happened to RG3?
But you couldn't argue that Cam Newton has sustained longer than that. I mean, here's the deal: from Cam Newton from 2011 when he came in the league to 2015, at least, he was absolutely dominant. There's nobody in the NFL. Josh Allen physically is maybe the closest, and he rushes for touchdowns, all these things. Josh Allen is not Cam Newton. He has a better arm now. He's not as dominant on the ground as Cam Newton once was. I think the biggest thing that we're talking about, Jeremy Lin, Carson Wentz, RG3 even. I mean, so many of these guys. And I want to be careful here because the boss is out of town today. And we usually bring in the bat when we bring in the B word. I want to be careful about the F word here as well, because I think calling somebody a fluke isn't quite the B word, but it's close. And I'm not a huge Cam Newton fan at this point. I'm not. I run a fantasy football show. I've gone on record multiple times about not backing what he's doing. There's a question here, Alves Project, why is Bill not confident in Jarrett Stidham? Great question. They draft him, and he hasn't really got the opportunity either. They let Jimmy Garoppolo walk. They might bring him back, blah, blah, blah. I think the biggest issue in the comparison with Cam Newton and everyone else you've mentioned is Cam Newton has shown us for 4 years. Yes, it was a while ago, but he showed us how dominant he can be. And basically, those Carolina Panthers teams were not very good. This is pre-Christian McCaffrey, of course. They were not very good outside of Cam Newton, right? D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart, great players in their time, but not game wreckers. Cam Newton was most of that, and they had a decent defense. So I want to be careful about the fluke situation. Carson Wentz, I think, is closer to that personally, because we did see a MVP type season, and then he blows his leg out and he's done, comes back, plays a little bit better, and then Foles takes over and blah, blah, blah. And so I want to be careful with that. But these guys are coming off of major injuries, changing teams, new schemes, new coaches, all these other things, new players. COVID's been an issue for the last year and a half with the teams and what they're able to do. So I understand, Jonathan, where you're coming from as far as the perception of things, but I do agree that Cam Newton and Carson Wentz are a completely different conversation than Jeremy Lin, but everybody has had like their moment in the sun. But I think Cam Newton is the most legitimate of that group that we're talking about personally.
Or it's just a tale of two career points, right? Like his first half of his career figured it out. But I also think the league changes, right? Look at Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is not a fluke. Lamar Jackson is not a bust, but there were adjustments made by the rest of the league around him to accommodate for the style of quarterback that he is, right? This sort of the run and gun guy that you could throw with Tyler Huntley and what's his name, and J.K. Dobbins, and run the triple option with the guy running up the slant, whether it's Des Bryant or Hollywood Brown or Willie Snead, right? The league was able to adjust to this play style offensively, to Harbaugh's game plan for Lamar Jackson, and it stifled Lamar Jackson a little bit. I think Cam Newton was a similar way. When you have these quarterbacks who they're dynamic in the way that they can play, but they're not dynamic in the system that you can build around them because they only have a certain skill set. Eventually, the league adjusts. It's the Sean McVay complex, right? Sean McVay innovated offense for 2 or 3 seasons, couldn't get over the hump in the postseason, made it a Super Bowl, but eventually the league adjusted, and that's sort of what we're seeing is the innovation of the NFL around these players. They adjusted to Cam Newton when he was playing really well. They adjusted to Carson Wentz. So, I mean, that's the beauty of Tom Brady, right? Aaron Rodgers, all these fantastic quarterbacks that have been able to be so dominant for so long is that they have figured out the adjustments that the rest of the league is making for them, and they know how to beat it. And that's what sets them apart from the rest of the guys who have moments in the sun and sort of flame out, is these guys continue to innovate their games to beat the opposition. And that makes them the fiercest competitors in the game. As far as Jared Stidham goes also, I just don't think that the confidence comes with his lack of ability to be consistent. And right now, I was reading an article this morning. He was working out 45 minutes north of where I am right now in Huntington Beach with Hunter Henry and with Kendrick Bourne, 2 guys who just signed with the Patriots. So he is getting reps with these guys. With that being said, I don't think that they're confident in his ability to be consistent. And Cam Newton, as inconsistent as he has been, is just a better option considering his past than Jared Stidham as an unproven third-year player now out of Auburn. Interesting to see what Stafford does in the McVay system. You know what's funny about Stafford, and I'm interested to hear your guys' opinion on this, is that I've read mixed reviews from popular mainstream media outlets about Stafford. Some like PFF gave the Rams like a C- on the trade, and the NFL Network gives the Rams an A- on the trade, right? Because people are very mixed up about how they feel about Matthew Stafford. No matter what, though, this is a step up from Jared Goff, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think about this?
I absolutely agree. It's a step up from Jared Goff. I also think that Matt Stafford has, like many players over the last 30 years, have had their ceilings capped in Detroit. So Matt Stafford has given a franchise for the last 10 plus years a competitive chance. They haven't even had a playoff chance because they're so bad. But he's given them a competitive chance per game for years. The guy's played with multiple broken ribs, collarbone fractures, knee, ankle, all over his body. I mean, and Calvin Johnson, Kenny Golladay, even back to Barry Sanders days, the Lions have never had a chance for multiple reasons. And Matt Stafford has given them a fighting chance. He now goes to a team that made the playoffs last year in, I would argue, the most difficult and most competitive division in all of football in the NFC West. But look, is Seattle anymore? We've heard a bunch of stuff with Russell Wilson. The 49ers got decimated a year after the Super Bowl in injuries. So can they actually bounce back? And the Cardinals are a young up-and-coming team, but are they ready to actually contend as well? The Rams are already there, and they upgraded the most important position in football, still have all the same weapons, a great young running back in Akers, all of their wide receiver weapons, and a top 5 defense in the league. Other than Calvin Johnson and Kenny Golladay, Matt Stafford has never had any of that stuff at his disposal, plus probably the best coach he's ever had as well. So I'm really looking forward to it, to see what the Rams can do in year one.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to the defensive part you said. Like every year in Detroit, the defense has not been great. Like yes, he can do his part on the offense and throw it to Megatron and Kenny Galladay these past couple of years. But at the end of the day, like, you have the offense and defense, and if the defense isn't going to get the job done, how much is it going to help you? So this will be the first time in his career where he has a defensive scheme where he knows that they'll back him up. Like, they'll get stops and they'll win games for him. So I just think it's definitely some weight off his shoulders.
I agree, and it's always good when you have a competitor excited to see somebody leave the division in a trade. David Morey, I'm a Packers fan and have seen him, plenty of Stafford over the years, and glad to see him out of the division. He is legitimate. So when you have a competitor giving you the praise, I think that's important.
David Morey, we got a lot of differences, my man. Bear down.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, Stafford just needs the defense to be able to keep him a little bit more comfortable when he's on offense. The Rams have a phenomenal defense. Sean McVay is a phenomenal offensive mind, and this is going to be a very good pairing in Los Angeles. Now, Detroit, it's interesting, and we'll get. I know we're running long on this, but it's just a fascinating conversation. The new GM at Detroit came from the front office in the Rams, and he was the guy who told McVay and the rest of the Rams front office to draft Jared Goff. He was super high on Jared Goff. So when he had the opportunity to make a trade for Jared Goff when he's now in Detroit, licked his chops, loved it. And guess what? It worked out better for the Rams. So at the end of the day, his bias actually may have worked against him here in Detroit. So we'll see what happens out there with the Lions. I want to give Sky the big box here. We're going to give Sky the big box because Sky has some, we'll see if they're choice words, but he has some words to share because we've spent a lot of time on the Raiders over the last week with their offensive line. If you get 10 years of John Gruden, there are certain expectations and they're currently not being met. One of those expectations was the quarterback situation. And in this specific conversation, how they handled Marcus Mariota and what exactly we should be taking away from Marcus Mariota and taking a pay cut now having to re-sign with the Raiders. Sky, the floor is yours.
All right, so I feel like Marcus Mariota getting a little bit of disrespect there from the Las Vegas Raiders. So he's 29 years old. Obviously, he had his troubles in Tennessee, injuries, and Ryan Tannehill takes him to the playoffs, yada, yada, gets shipped out of town, plays one game last year, played quite well against the Chargers in that game, but Derek Carr was the starter, obviously, for last season. So he signed a one-year, $3.5 million contract with the Raiders, but he took nearly a $7 million pay cut basically to have a job. Now, I'm not going to speak for Marcus, and I don't know if he wants to be a Raider or not, but I do know that Marcus wants to be a starter in the NFL. And say what you want about Derek Carr, the Raiders love him, and he is going to be the starter as long as he is healthy and in the building. So I'm going to read off some numbers to you boys, and I'm going to give you a quick little question to see where you sit on Marcus Mariota or some of these other free agent quarterbacks who landed elsewhere. Marcus Mariota in the last 3 years. So I did a quick little study on quarterback play of these 6 quarterbacks since 2018, last 3 seasons. Of course, not everybody's played a full season, but per game. Mariota, 22 games, 63% completion percentage. Mitch Trubisky, 39 games, 65% completion percentage, now the backup in Buffalo. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 32 games, 66% completion percentage, now probably the starter in Washington. Andy Dalton, 35 games, 62% completion percentage, probably the starter in Chicago. Jacoby Brissett, 30 games, 45% completion percentage, the backup to Tua in Miami. And Tyrod Taylor, 14 games played in the last 3 years, 56% completion percentage, now backing up for now, but maybe the starter in Houston as well. So 2 of these guys, Fitzpatrick and Dalton, are going to be starters probably day one. Mariota is not in the starter conversation. Derek Carr is the guy there. My question to you is Marcus Mariota has a better completion percentage than Dalton, Brissett, and Tyrod Taylor. Dalton's going to be a starter. Tyrod Taylor could be a starter too if this Deshaun Watson situation gets out of hand. My question to you guys is, would you rather have day one, 2021, Marcus Mariota as your starting quarterback, or let's go Trubisky, Fitzpatrick, Dalton, Brissett, Taylor? Which of those quarterbacks would you rather have over Marcus Mariota as your starter coming in 2021?
Our resident frat boy is a Chicago Bears fan. Let's hear. Would you rather have Dalton starting or would you rather have Marcus Mariota starting?
So this is a tough question because again, like Dalton's fine. You know what you're going to get out of him. He's been pretty consistent throughout his career, but he's just not exciting. He hasn't been able to get over the hump. And sure, while Marcus Mariota has struggled before, I felt like the game he played last year against the Chargers, he actually showed a lot. He showed he can throw the ball. He showed he can run still. So I would like to give Mariota another chance, and I would have him in Chicago over Andy Dalton.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota, I would take him over Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
Or Rod Taylor. I would take him over Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. I would take him over Andy Dalton. I take him over Jimmy G.
Jacoby Brissett.
Tua right now. Wow, this is a long list.
Okay, yeah. And I'll do this.
Football team. I'll take him over anybody. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Hey, don't put disrespect on Fitzmagic's name. Don't put disrespect on Fitzmagic's name.
I like Fitzpatrick, and he's fun. He's exciting. Shouts out to the beard. Always, hashtag beard fam for sure. However, he can't stay healthy. He's been getting pulled for younger quarterbacks for years. A team doesn't trust him to really be the guy. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's a great energy for a young team. I think he's a great fit in Washington right now. But is he really going to bring that team over the top? Where is he better than what Alex Smith was maybe going to get them as a stable quarterback as well? Straight up, would you rather have Mariota or Derek Carr?
Oh,
we've seen the Derek Carr experiment. We've seen what he's been able to do and what he's campaigning.
The problem is that you can make the argument that we've seen the Marcus Mariota experiment in Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know.
But he was hurt. He had no offense. They ran the offense through the running back. He didn't get much opportunity. I would argue all day long that Marcus should have an opportunity over Derek Carr.
I've been saying it for Project. Mariota over Cam Newton.
I agree with that too. Let me throw this out here quick and we can move on. So the new contract, I just said that he took nearly a $7 million pay cut this year. Now, look, this could benefit Marcus in the long run. So next season, if he sticks with the Raiders, he could potentially get traded at the trade deadline midseason anyway. So this could be all for naught in a couple of months. But let's say he remains a Raider all season long. He could actually get traded next year and get a better opportunity because now he has made himself cheaper to the market. So that's a benefit to him and probably why he took the pay cut. It's a steep pay cut at $7 million pretty much for this year. But under his old deal, he was slated to make $10.725 million this season. Now he'll make $3.5 million. So he can make that $8 million up in incentives, but I can't imagine his incentives are going to be very popular if he's not able to play and therefore make those incentives. And if they're playoff-based, Super Bowl-based, playoff win, Pro Bowl, those type of incentives, I don't think the Raiders are doing any of those as a team, and he won't be able to do them individually if he's not given the opportunity. So I read it this morning. It ruffled my feathers a little bit. I want to stick by my man Marcus, and apparently the NFL is not as convinced as I am, but we can move on. Sorry, guys. I had to get a little fired up there.
No, you're good, man. All right, let's go. Let's pay some bills here, and then I want to move over to Kieran brought up a good point about Zach Wilson. I want to get to here in a moment, and then we'll move forward with our schedule here. But guys, I don't have it with me. Friday, I promise you, I will have my Athletic Brew. I will get you the crack. I don't know what I'm going to get. So their microbrewery is only 10 minutes away here in beautiful, sunny San Diego, California, where it's currently 7.
You got to give us a tour, man. I want to get down there. I really want to check it out. So
we'll reach out. We'll have Chuck, our businessman over here, set up a little tour. We'll get Sky down to San Diego. We'll get Ryan down to San Diego. Charlie, you're invited, but I don't know if the good folks of San Diego want the good vibes that you have out there in Indianapolis disrupting us here. But get Athletic Brew, folks.
It's Bloomington.
Huh?
It's Bloomington.
Bloomington, Indianapolis. He said, she said.
I would love to come to San Diego. Thank you for the invite.
For Athletic Brew, you definitely will. Brew without compromise. Get 10% off your first order. Click the link in our bio to go to athleticbrew.com. RDL show is where you want to go to get 10% off your first order. Athletic Brew is great. Non-alcoholic. I hate alcohol.
It's delicious. It's really good beer.
Athletic Brew I love beer. I hate alcohol.
Same. I agree.
I hate the feeling of being out of control. I hate feeling those spinnies before I go to bed. Actually, I don't fall asleep when I have those spinnies. I hate all of it. I just like to enjoy good beer, quality people, nice day outside. Athletic Brew is the place to do it. Make sure to hit up Athletic Brew. Click the link in our bio to get 10% off your first order. I'll have one on Friday, I promise. on the show. All right. We got a really good point here in the comments, and everybody keep those comments going. We got a ton of subscriptions over the last week. Keep them coming. Please rate, review, subscribe to the show. We're partnering with Believe, the phenomenal podcasting network based out of Beverly Hills, to make sure that all of our shows, the show page should be up later today, to make sure that all of our shows are available across all listening platforms. Make sure to hit us up with a rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify and wherever else you might get your podcast. So, Zach Wilson, Kieran brings up a good point here, folks. Zach Wilson has been a very interesting topic of conversation over the course of the season. The 2021 college football season. BYU quarterback is now being said to be the second overall pick behind Trevor Lawrence. And there is, you either love Zach Wilson or you believe that he is overhyped, that he's getting too much attention, just as our friend Kieran here says. I'm in between. I'm one of the few people in between because he has all the skills, he has all the talent, and the repertoire to be a phenomenal NFL quarterback. He has to be put in the right system. The guys at BYU, the reason that BYU is so successful is because they have 28-year-olds anchoring their offensive line. And it's not a joke. They're consistently the oldest. Yeah. I believe that BYU this year, their average team age was older than the youngest team in the NFL.
Well, and there is a reason for that. You know, they have the faith missions, and
right.
So
they go on mission for 2 years. No, it's not like BYU is trying to have an edge over everybody. It's just within the systematic approach of their school and their program, which is fine. I'm not shitting on BYU for that. What I'm saying is that actually helps their quarterback play. It helps Zach Wilson when he is 25, 26, 27-year-olds blocking for him against 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. Because developmentally, these guys are just different. They're just literally built different. And their brains are fully developed. My brain isn't even fully developed. I have one more year, and then I'm supposed to be as smart as I'm supposed to be.
You'll be tip-top shape. Nice.
Well, 25 years old for guys is when your brain fully stops developing. Charlie, enjoy the ignorance while it lasts. But Zach Wilson, the biggest win in his career was against Coastal. Last season, not in his career, was against Coastal Carolina, or lost. The biggest game last season was against Coastal Carolina. He had an opportunity at the end of that possession. What Coastal did, though, against Zach Wilson that second half, made him look like, and this is a good comparison in a bad situation, is Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. They blitzed him a ton, exposed the flaws on the offensive line. Zach Wilson was obviously frustrated, getting sacked a handful of times in that second half. And it really affected his game, and it affected his team's performance. They ended up losing to Coastal Carolina in what was, in my opinion, I know Ryan agrees with this, the best college football game of the season. He was not a team captain at BYU. Everybody talks about that as leadership, but guess what? Everybody questioned Justin Herbert's leadership coming out of college, and guess what? Rookie of the year. Absolutely balling. And I called that before all of y'all, so don't even. Sky was there. Sky knows.
I just want everyone to know that Jonathan also called that Norfolk State was going to upset Gonzaga. So
I did not. That was off the record. That was off the record in our group chat, and it was a joke.
Just please note that, everybody. Just please note that.
Oy vey. All right. Well, anyway, so Zach Wilson is not going to be better than Justin Fields. He's probably not going to be better than Davis Mills out of Stanford. I don't even think he's going to be better than Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. But I think that the tools that he possesses, and he has some big wins. Beat USC 2 years ago. Beat Georgia Southern. Beat Tennessee. Beat Wisconsin a couple years ago back at Wisconsin. So he has some marquee big wins against dominant programs on his repertoire, which does add a level of credibility to his potential of being a valuable asset in the NFL. So I think that some teams are willing to look at him as a high risk, high reward option. I think that a lot of teams are looking at him and seeing that maybe he's overvalued. And that's why, look, they're not picking those teams that see him as an overvalued prospect aren't picking in the top 10. So they don't really have to worry about him anyways. But the teams who need to win, the teams that want to win now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Jets, the other teams in the top, the Bengals. I mean, all these teams in the top 8 that need quarterbacks, they're looking at Zach Wilson as high risk, high reward. And the opportunity cost of taking him may not outweigh the potential that he brings to your team. So that's how I view Zach Wilson in the situation.
quick update before we go. Ryan's current rookie quarterback prospect rankings are as such: Trevor Lawrence 1, Justin Fields 2, Mac Jones out of Alabama just had his pro day yesterday, number 3, Davis Mills, that's Ryan's guy, out of Stanford, Zach Wilson number 5, just ahead of Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. So, Ryan has some experience, being talked about at the top of the draft, and he's got Zach Wilson at number 5 currently.
Interesting. All right, so Ryan's even more on the anti-Zach Wilson train. It's weird talking about a guy who's a top 5 quarterback draft prospect as underrated in Ryan's eyes, but he is, right? Like Davis Mills out of Stanford. Most of you guys probably don't even remember who Davis Mills is, and he's going to be potentially a high second-round pick, late first-round pick, and probably one of the better picks out of this draft. Mac Jones, I mean, people are going to sleep on Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones, I'm high on Mac Jones. I think that he could be better than Trevor Lawrence when it's all said and done. But it's going to be close, and that's going to be a really fun quarterback.
Time will tell, my friend. Time will tell.
Exactly. All right, we got 8 minutes left. Let's give a shout. Let's talk about some women's hoops here, folks. It's March Madness. Oh, I guess we'll do a live look-in. I got to get my score up. So Oregon, it's halftime. 27-27.
Wow.
The Georgia Bulldogs, the 3 seed, duking it out with the Oregon Ducks, the 6 seed in the women's tournament. Folks, if you're not watching the women's tournament, I don't know what you're doing with your lives. You might be working because it's a weekday.
Currently they're watching the RDL show, so that makes sense. But in general,
you have the RDL show on the big screen, and then you have the women's hoops games on your laptop, on your phone, whatever the secondary device is to be able to consume that content. But women's hoops has been phenomenal. Maryland absolutely blew out Alabama earlier today, 100-64. How about
Wright? Huge score.
Huge.
That's a huge score.
Wright State.
A blowout.
Missouri State up at halftime over Wright State, 24-19. And then
Cinderella, though, so far here of the women's tournament with a big upset. They're the 13th seed, and then Belmont, of course, the 12th seed is playing Indiana.
Go Hoosiers, baby.
The Bruins are going to beat the Hoosiers today. I'm calling it. I'm calling Belmont over Indiana women's basketball victory to make the Sweet 16, the second Sweet 16 in Belmont history.
I don't know, man. I'm not gonna lie. I don't really know much about this lady Hoosiers team. I don't know, but you know what? I cheer for them. I support them, and I want them to come out, play their game, and do their thing. All right.
Couple of teams to shout out: Michigan women's basketball yesterday, big win to punch their ticket ever.
They beat the Lady Volunteers, the #1 women's program ever, to make it to their first Sweet 16.
I mean, Notre Dame and UConn have their place up at the top of that pedestal as well.
Yes.
But the Vols have done a phenomenal job.
Yeah. Congratulations to Michigan. That's a huge win.
Victory. So Michigan is going to the women's basketball team first ever Sweet 16 appearance. The men's team with a big win over LSU. So Michigan is one of 4 programs, and
Charlie's
we're going to get
feeling the vibes. Good vibes for Charlie.
Good vibes for Charlie, who was deathly scared of LSU going into that game.
You want to know what made that game even worse?
A shot, they would have won by 20.
Listen. You want to know what made that game even worse? I'm watching the game in my living room with all my friends. There's like 4 or 5 of us, and they know I'm a huge Michigan fan, and they are actively not just chilling. They're actively cheering for LSU the entire game, screaming, wanting them to score every time. And you know what I did? I was silent. I was so upset and frustrated.
Poker face, bro. Poker face.
Oh, my God. You know what? The Wolverines prevailed. It was a great game. I don't know why LSU did not give the ball to Cam Thomas because he was playing absurd, but that's just what it is. Go blue, baby.
Wins a win.
4 teams still alive in both brackets. Michigan, just talked about, big win over LSU. Baylor might be the first team ever to win it on both sides. That's incredible. I mean, Baylor basketball men's and women's is phenomenal.
We should fact check this. I believe UConn.
I want to say Louisville did it one year.
UConn may have done it back in the day as well.
Kevin Ollie did. I don't think they did. I think they were a year off. Go double check that guy for us real quick. Oregon, as we said, in a bout with Georgia, 27-27, the Mighty Ducks. And Oregon also absolutely demolishing Iowa the other day. After on this show, the great Ryan D. Leaf told me I was a homer and stupid for picking them. He didn't call me stupid. He called me a homer. But he was implying the stupidity was surrounding the homerism. Nonetheless, the Ducks looking like the best team in the tournament so far.
All right, don't go that far.
Absolutely slaughtering the Hawkeyes, making Luka Garza cry in the post-game show.
He dropped 36 and 9, okay? He did his part.
It doesn't matter. Dana Altman's game plan was let Luka Garza score 50 points if they want to. We're going to stop everybody else. That's exactly what they did.
3 of the starters in Iowa didn't score. I think that was a big part. But also, Iowa's defense was atrocious. So,
all right, Charlie's just salty. Another Big Ten team lost.
I got to come in with this heater here. So, just slight humble brag. It is UConn as the only team to bring in the men and women's championship in the same season. However, not only did they do that, but that year, 2013-14 academic year, the field hockey squad for the UConn Huskies also got the national championship. UConn is the only school to have both basketball teams win titles in the same year. They've done it twice. The first dual championship was in 2004. Wow. So they've done it in 2004 and 2013-14. The only school to win both men and women's NCAA championship in the same season, the UConn Huskies.
So Baylor looking to join them there as the favorite. Michigan and Baylor both are options to win, good favorites to win.
And they're both dominant. Both those Baylor teams are
and this dominant. This is both men's and women's. Oregon and UCLA. So UCLA is the final team, the 11th seed in that men's tournament, on a run playing Loyola Chicago. This is going to be a crazy game, guys. We'll talk about it on Friday. We're going to preview the weekend slate of games on Friday. We don't want to spoil it too much. UCLA women's, though, the 3 seed, playing the 6 seed Texas tonight at 6. That's going to be a fantastic game. I think UCLA might pull it out, though. We're going to see 2 Bruins teams. I don't want to spoil my prediction for the men's game, but I think we're going to see 2 Bruins teams in the Sweet 16, both on the men's and women's side. So very impressive showing for these 4 programs with 2 minutes to go, guys. What else is on this list? What do we want to get out of here on?
Let's quickly continue to talk basketball. Let's quickly cover the trade deadline. So again, we have our show on Friday. We're going to recap if anything goes down, obviously, but let's preview just for a minute or two. The NBA trade deadline is tomorrow, Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Key players to look out for: Kyle Lowry of the Raptors, Victor Oladipo of the Rockets, Aaron Gordon of Magic, Lonzo Ball with the Pelicans, and John Collins of the Hawks.
All right, I'm gonna quickly go fire off my predictions for each guys. Charlie, you're gonna respond if you agree or disagree. I think Kyle Lowry gets traded. Where New York, I think that the Knicks can make a run at him. That would be a great glue guy option in the backcourt. Victor Oladipo, that's a tough one. I think the Nuggets are an option. I definitely think Denver's an option. I also think Portland. I think the Trailblazers are an option for Victor Oladipo. Now that CJ McCollum's back, Carmelo Anthony slowing down a little bit, you still want to start him at the 4. You get Yusuf Nurkic back. Who do you start at the 3? Well, I think that Victor Oladipo will be a perfect starter. Bring Garrett Temple off the bench. Aaron Gordon goes to the Celtics. Lonzo Ball, I don't know, probably Chicago. They're making a huge push for him.
Slow down 1 second. Garrett Temple's on Chicago.
Sorry, not Garrett Temple. Who's the other 3-point
Gary
shooter?
Trent Jr.
Thank you. Gary Trent Jr. comes off the bench. Thank you for that correction. John Collins stays in Atlanta for the remainder of the season. What are your quips with that, Charlie? Really quickly as we hit 1 o'clock.
I can definitely imagine seeing Lowry going, but at the same time, what he's done for Toronto, I know they're not in Toronto this year. I think he might just stay just because he likes the culture and the franchise. Speaking of Victor Oladipo, he's definitely going to get shipped out. The Rockets just breaking their 20-game losing streak. Congratulations to you guys. I like it. I like that fit in Portland. I think having him be that third or fourth scorer with them would definitely be big and allow them to kind of make that next jump. Did you talk about Aaron Gordon at all?
Yeah, I think he goes to the Celtics.
I think Gordon or Vucevic, honestly. Vucevic.
I want Vucevic in my team.
There's been a lot of talks about Vucevic going to the Celtics, so we'll see that. It's just exciting to see. I see John Collins staying with the Hawks, though. I think he has too much value for the Hawks to give up on him already.
All right. We got to get out of here. The Alves Project. You're going to leave us with one last question. I'll sign off on this. What's happening with Russell Westbrook and the Wizards? Lots of expectations for nothing. Absolutely. But guess what? They went on like an 8-game winning streak before the All-Star break to get back into the playoff conversation. They'll probably make the play-in tournament. But guess what? Russell Westbrook, his usage percentage in Oklahoma City was like 40%. So that's why he was averaging a triple-double. When you play with Bradley Beal And with Rui Hashimura and a couple of developing big men, you're not going to get the ball 40% of the opportunities and run to the basket in an offensive set most of the time. So guess what? He's declining, and that's just the nature of a guy like Russell Westbrook and the way that he plays. His PR is super low because at the end of the day, he's not a guy that is going to win you big games. He's just going to get you stats, and that is what's happening with the Wizards. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time out of your busy Wednesday afternoon to join us here on the RDL show. I'll be back hosting on Friday. Ryan will join us from the Rich Eisen Studios in El Segundo, California, for Sky Guasco and our resident frat guy, Charlie Moss, the star of Indiana University Bloomington Greek life. My name is Jonathan Rifkind, signing off. Have a great rest of your Wednesday and Thursday. We'll be back on Friday morning for more RDL show. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Talk to you then.